Hi everybody, we ready? Yes. Welcome to open mic number 56. I think I've met everybody, but for those of you who I haven't said hello to, my name is Blaise van Hecke. I am co-owner of Busybird Publishing. The hairy man over there is Kev Howlett. He's the co-owner of Busybird. He's taking video and photos and lots of little sneaky things, and they will be up on YouTube unless you say you don't want it to be. Okay. You will notice he was doing some extra little things tonight because he's sort of doing. He's going to piece together a little, I don't know, special about open mic night, as a piece for our new TV show. So we have a TV show. It's not on TV because nobody watches TV apparently these days, according to our son.
Stream YouTube through your TV, then we're on TV.
Yes. So YouTube every Tuesday afternoon around 5 o'clock. It will actually be posted up. We were going to do it live, but we thought too hard. So it's called The Nest. So if you go into YouTube and Google The Nest and with Busybird, because there's lots of things actually called The Nest, like movies and what have you, you'll find us. There's 2 episodes up there already from the last 2 weeks. And every week we are going to have around about 10-minute interview with an author. So if you are wanting to be on the list of would-be interviewees, please let us know. We have obviously helped about 300 people publish their books, so it's going to take us a while to get through everybody. But, we'll mix it up a bit, different books, so that, we don't all have a similar type of book.
It's about storytellers.
It's about storytelling, not just, a book. So if you are doing things other than just writing books, And what else are we having on that show? We're having a word of the week and some, behind the scenes kind of things that happen at Busybird, as well as what books have just been published. So we'll be showcasing them. And what else?
I want to do industry interviews, like go to bookshops and get them to tell me what's selling, what's big and stuff like that. So a bit of information on all round stuff.
So altogether it's 20 minutes, but we're open to anything that you think could be good on that in each segment. So it's still a bit experimental, it's still a bit, when Kev's learning the technology behind it.
The word's daggy.
Yeah, it's pretty daggy. It's not slick. Because, we're not slick here, are we? And that is actually on purpose. So we don't want it to be a slick operation that's like everybody else. That would be really boring and not us. So have a look for that. It's a bit of fun. So Kev will be putting, as normal, he records the whole of the readings for the night and they go up end of the week, early next week. So if you don't want to be up on YouTube, you need to let him know so he can cut you out and put you on the editing floor. What do you call it?
Cutting room floor.
The cutting room floor. Okay, we have quite a lot of readers tonight, which is fantastic. And a few announcements and what have you as we go. We will start with Rosemary tonight. You didn't think you'd be first. So for anyone who has their name on the list who hasn't read before, I don't necessarily go in the order that you put your name down. I mix it up depending on what the reading material is. So because we've got a few readers, we will have to limit the time to 4 minutes. Les will be timing. At 3.5 minutes he will ding the bell once, so that means you've still got 30 seconds to go. At the end of the 4 minutes, he will do a double ding. You can finish your sentence, but don't think if you've got half a page, you can keep going, because he will come and rugby tackle you. Well, we'll sick Oscar the dog onto you. He's really vicious.
That's how vicious he is.
So Rosemary is going to read
Okay. This was going to be something else, but a last minute change. My dad smoked until he had pleurisy and was ordered to give it up immediately. From that time on, pardon me, all things to do with smoking were banished from the house. If a cigarette ad came on TV, he would get up, turn off the TV, time 60 seconds, and then turn it back on again. Cigarette ads in magazines and newspapers were violently ripped out and discarded. Of course, no one was allowed to smoke anywhere near the house. Dad had no smoking bans in place long before they became fashionable. But once my dad did smoke, reclining in his easy chair, an aeronautics magazine invariably open in one hand while his other hand gripped his beloved pipe, and every now and then he'd tilt his head back and blow smoke rings in the air while us kids watched fascinated. Some evenings we would gather around him pleading, "Tell us a story, Dad." And off he would go, his deep, deliberately soft and soothing voice telling us yet another tale from his childhood. These tales were always scary, and he would pause just before the really gripping parts, blowing 3 or 4 smoke rings in a row for what seemed like an interminable time, while we sat on the floor, slack-jawed and wide-eyed to hear what happened next. We later found out that he used those pauses to conjure up the next part of a story for each tale. It was grossly exaggerated for our benefit. His storytelling always took place at night, which suited his scary subject perfectly. And the best stories, the ones with the most pregnant pauses and edge-of-the-seat suspense, were the ones told outside the house on balmy nights beneath a sparkling starlit sky. Dad would settle himself in his chair on our front porch, all of us sitting on the steps impatiently waiting as he prepared his pipe, lit it, tapped it a few times, leaned back, puffed a bit, blew out a few smoke rings, and then at last spoke. Quietly, hauntingly, perfectly. We were mesmerized. And then he'd suddenly stop, right at a cliffhanger, and matter-of-factly say, "All right, off to bed, I'll tell you the rest tomorrow night." Of course, he had simply run out of ideas, but we were not to know that, and we groaned in unison. Sometimes the storytelling would take place on the flat roof of our house, which we reached by hoisting ourselves up various window ledges and lintels and shimmering up drain pipes, finally being heaved up onto the roof by Dad or one of our older brothers who had scrambled ahead of us. Once on the roof, we'd lean bravely over the parapet to check out the neighbors below and the fields beyond. Then we would lie on our backs on the roof, our eyes turned towards the sky. Dad, being an aeronautics engineer, had passed on his love for skies to us, and we would lie there identifying the different constellations and marveling at the night sky together. And then we would say, "Tell us a story, Dad," and snuggle in a little closer as the next breathtaking tale unfolded. I loved my dad's stories, even the scary ones. I would later ask, "Are there really ghosts, Daddy?" And he would disturbingly reply, "Yes, of course there are, Rosemary." Dad's stories got larger and longer, and the more we oohed and ahed and shivered, the more he embellished them. I believed it all. I wanted to, and I didn't want to. I miss his stories. I miss him. He was the best dad.
Paul Donnell is going to read a poem, or poems, 513 to Greensborough.
Right, this is a sequence poem. The number of elements to the sequence poem will keep on going, I suppose, until I run out of my Mikey. On the 513. Stale urine, graffitied shelter, hope the bus is on time. Grateful for my footy scarf pulled over my nose, filtering the stench. G'day mate, a senior's concession please. Need to see me card? No mate, you're wearing it for a face. Where to mate? Bottom of the hill, like your footy team. Mate, give us a break, we're doing okay. Suppose so for a mob of mugs. Who do you follow? The mighty pies. Yeah, I thought so. How come? Are you Nostradamus? No, I see it in your face. Cheeky bugger, then again. I had that coming. Here's your stop, watch your step. Don't want you falling much. Calm the bombers, calm the pies. 513-2. No stench of last night's beer, shelter freshly washed. Here it comes. No, that's the 902, wave it on, need the 513. On time it rounds the bend. I wonder if my mate is driving today. My bomber's scarf prominently, provocatively inviting comment. He pulls up half a bus length past me. Yeah, probably him, taking the mickey. Bugger, it's not him. Hardly a glance, not even an insult. Hand extended to the grill, awaiting the fare. 2 hours senior, please, I ask. I proffer my $1.80. No such ticket, and that'll be $3.40. I don't want all day, I only need 2 hours. Then why didn't you ask for a 2 hours concession? Suddenly my Collingwood opponent seemed human, well, almost. Grumping something complimentary, he took my $1.80 and gave me the ticket, accelerating away before I was seated. Nice touch. Meatloaf on the radio, bat out of hell blaring. Meathead behind the wheel, buffhead out of hell. 5133. Just the driver and me today. I thought that rarely happens. Little human contact now with Mikey. Tap on, fare auto deducted, $9.30 balance. Settled back in my seat, I heard a muffled cough and that tell-all or a light sniff. Saw her in the window reflection, curled up into a pre-birth ball. How old? Hard to say. That age that females do so well, someplace between child and woman. Black beanie pulled low over her brow. Everlast, it proclaimed. Surely not. Hope I'm wrong. In the late 50s, in the time of my youth, 2 nights each week after rowing, some of the crew and me lifted weights, pumped the iron, they say now, in the dingy interior of Leo Darcy's gym, 2nd floor near the top of Elizabeth Street. A gritty, seedy gathering place for glove men, pugilists and hardened fighters. In the corner to the right of the elevated boxing ring, a heavy punching bag hung by chains from the roof beams. Everlast was emblazoned on its well-punched and stained leather. Most times I watched the boxers in the ring, bobbing, weaving, constantly moving, jabbing, ripping, dancing away, clear-eyed, largely unmarked, as crafted, skilled boxers are rarely hit. Some standing their ground, brawling fighters taking the blows, the punishment registered on calloused faces. One word, or okay two, Everlast, took me back to the stale sweat and that acrid copper-tainted smell of fresh cuts. I stole another look in her direction. She had the coward eyes of the abused, sold for at the hands of others, who would know. I fervently hope that kid can dance. Please don't stand and take that bastard's place.
Antoinette is going to read a reflection called Live Your Truth. While Antoinette's coming up, I forgot to mention that Paul Donnell, who just read his poem, has a writing group at the Living and Learning Centre. Is that the one?
Diamond Valley Learning.
Is that the one at the bottom of the hill in Greensboro?
Yep.
Yeah. What day of the week is it?
Fridays.
Every Friday?
Yep. During the school term.
Yep.
That place is closed at the rest of the time.
Yep.
At 12:30 till 3:30.
12:30 till 3:30. So they're looking for some more people who might like to join that writing group. So have a chat to Paul afterwards if you're interested.
Thanks, mate.
Hi everyone. So the reflection I'm going to read today is not really called Live Your Truth. Live Your Truth is the title for the anthology that I've been talking about. So those who were here for the last few sessions, I talked about an anthology called We Inspire Now, and it's a series. And the first book is now called Live Your Truth. What I'd planned to do today was to actually read some from my story that would go into the anthology. Hadn't quite got that ready. So last night I just sort of started writing, and it just was a reflection on where it's kind of developed and where it is now. So when I first felt inspired to create this, I imagined the book would be for and about women in their 50s. I wanted to inspire them to fulfill their goals and live their dreams. What I found out is that often our creations take on a life of their own. I set this in motion, but what it is becoming is much better than I had originally imagined. there are now 10 authors contributing, men and women, ranging from their early 40s to 96. So they're all sharing their story of overcoming difficulties, finding out and being who they are and being true to themselves and being true to their passions, pursuing their dreams, pursuing their passions. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the most recent author that's joining us. He's a 96-year-old called Raymond Henderson. He's actually dying at the moment. He's in hospital. He's been given like weeks, perhaps months to live. But his daughter contacted me. Some of you may know her, Honor Henderson. She's an artist, Kangaroo Ground. I think she lives in Bend of Islands. So she contacted me to say that her father had, in his 70s, his brother died, very similar age. And he thought that, he would sort of die soon as well. He thought, oh, well, my time's going to come soon as well. But his daughter said to him, no, look, you're only 70. Why don't you just do something that you've always wanted to do, fulfill your dreams. And what he'd always wanted to do was to write. He always wanted to write. So he started to write, and he self-published a book about his family history. And he also he hasn't published, but he wrote a book inspiring people and talking about how to live to live to old age. And part of that was fulfilling your dreams and following your passions. So when Ona saw this, an ad for my anthology, she said that would be a perfect fit. And so I thought about it for a while. I thought it's so far away from what I had originally imagined, but I thought how perfect it is. How perfect it is. So his body may be giving up, but his mind certainly isn't, and he's very excited about the prospect. So it's, for me, it was like a real honour to have someone who, at that age, and even now, like literally on his deathbed, still wants to get his message out there. So I thought, how inspiring is that? So, like I said, the journey takes you, sort of different places than you expected, but I'm really excited about the whole project, and yeah, looking forward to what's next. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Antoinette. Lillian. Who's Lillian? Yeah. I've mixed it up. Moved you up the... So Lillian's going to read an excerpt from Quest for Riches. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to do a bit more than that. So I thought I would do a little quick showcase. I'd take you on a whirlwind tour through my publishing history first. Since I've been coming here for about 3 years and I've hardly ever talked about anything I do. So I first wrote this book in 2006 called The Mastery Club. It's narrated by a 12-year-old girl called Natalie who feels her life is very boring, and into her life comes this green-haired girl Nina with the intention of forming a mastery club where young people will come together to support each other in achieving their goals and dreams. So this is a book where I've channeled a lot of ideas that really inspire me, but through a novel, through a story. Then I wrote a sequel to that. So most people looking around the world think that this is a world that's very unjust, very cruel, etc. But not so if you understand that there's a hidden order at work. So this book explores the hidden order at work in the world, governed by principles as profound and absolute as the law of gravity. So that's that one. Then between those two, and there's an Indigenous character and a rite of passage at puberty, things like that in that book, which is a sequel. Then I wrote these two. This one's called The Boy Who Barked, and it's a children's picture book about one of my mentors, Dr. John DiMartini. And he's someone who had a lot of learning disabilities, who overcame them and is now a leading educator around the world. He's an extraordinary man. Another one is a man called Don Tolman, and he's a health educator who at the age of 8 learned about a recipe in nature that would deliver really good health. And so he spent 17 years looking for the recipe and published it and has been helping people since then. So that's a pretty amazing book. And then, last November I published this one, Wanted Greener Grass, a novel about love, envy and a crazy kind of courage. So this was an a novel that is about a couple who have a marriage that's not fulfilling and what they do to resolve that. And in the aftermath of this, my own life turned upside down, such that I just have come back from my honeymoon. So it's an amazing dual story in a way, my life part and that part. And I'm just about to launch this new book, Quest for Riches. This one I was approached by a business coach to write, and it's a story teaching financial literacy to teenagers, but through a novel. And it's about 4 teenagers who are presented with the opportunity of going to India on a school tour, a school, excursion. And the 4 teenagers represent 4 different money personalities. So I'm going to see how much of those 4 I can read you in the next, how much have I got left?
12 seconds.
Oh. Get that. All right, next time.
36.
Are you joking?
Yeah,
Almost joking.
75.
Alright, so this is one of the 4 characters. This is the short one. Eric sat at his desk and studied the strategy he had been working on. Open new savings account, check. Place ads for new tutoring students, check. Seek testimonials from the parents of existing students, check. Break down the total into monthly and weekly amounts, check. Mark calendar with a due date for the deposit and balance, check. Now he just needed the students to roll up. Putting his phone aside, he pulled out his science text and returned to his homework. You can get that kind of character, right? I'll give you a little bit of this one. Brooke had been avoiding the mall because she knew what she was like when it came to window shopping. If she saw something she liked, she would soon talk herself into buying it, especially if it was on special. But she had to do an errand here for her mother, so she had roped Kelly, her sister, in for moral support. I'm going to walk all the way down there, she said, pointing straight ahead, without even looking at the clothes shops, waving a hand on either side of them. Go, Brooks, Kelly said. But isn't the point being able to look and not buy? This is near the end of the book, right? So they've been learning about financial principles. Impossible, Brooks said. Crap, Kelly set off. Tell me if you see something you want. I'm an expert at this now. But I don't want to look, Brooke objected, holding her hands on either side of her eyes as blinkers. Get over yourself, Brooke, Kelly replied. You look like an idiot. Brooke quickly dropped her hands to her sides. Shit. Her favourite store had sale now, everything 25% off. I have all the books here for sale.
Jackie Richards is going to read or tell a story about career change. Is that right?
Yes, sort of like that.
Cool.
I'm one of Antoinette's co-authors in the book Live Your Truth, and last time I gave a little bit of an overview about what I'd be writing about. It's about my story. My story is actually about career change, and I wanted to talk a bit more about the bit where I did actually leave the IT industry, took a few goes, and about how the setting up of my therapies practice for stress management and relaxation has evolved over the last 9 years. It started off with a bit of, lots and lots of fear, because when I finished my holistic counselling course, I said to my tutor, how do I attract clients? And she goes, oh, you need a carrot. I said, carrot? She goes, something soft, something that isn't sort of intimidating, like I'm a counsellor. She said, something like massage. And I thought, I've just done a 2-year diploma. I can't go back to college and do massage. But fortunately, I found something called Indian head massage that you could learn over 3 weekends and do the basic, advanced and practitioner course over, say, 6 months over 3 weekends. And that will give me insurance for offering something tactile and soft and gentle to attract clients. And so I added that to my portfolio. And then I mentioned Reiki last time as also part of my portfolio. But also part of this creating my new me, I've realised I actually had to make some money, and whilst I was figuring out how I was going to attract clients, I wasn't actually making any money. So I actually had to go back into the corporate industry, but I went on my terms. I went as an office administrator, because 20 years working in corporate IT, I can do office administration. I can do it standing on my head. So I was fortunate enough that I found a role where I could do office administration part-time and then start working on creating what's my future looking for me in the other part of that time. And so I actually got a bit of a balance going, and I started attracting clients, and through my office job I had to practice my Indian head massage to get my practitioner certificate. So I got people in the office, come and have an Indian head massage for free, because I need to practice on you to get all my moves right. And through that I actually attracted some clients. And one of the ladies, the story I want to tell you, was recovering from some grueling cancer treatments. She was having chemo, she'd had a double mastectomy, she was having radiotherapy, she was really stressed, single mother, 2 teenage girls. And she just said, I just need time out for me, I need to look after me whilst I'm looking after everybody else. And so she came and was my practice person. We took a little meeting room in the side in the office, and I would sort of practice my moves on her. And at the time she was wearing a wig. And when she came for her Indian head massage, she said, can I take my wig off for the first time round? And I said, yeah, of course you can. And she took her wig off, and she goes, and then she had the Indian head massage, which sort of starts in the shoulders, works up the face, and finishes on the scalp with all these sort of really wacky moves. And she was like, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that is so fantastic. Oh, that's just so relaxing. I was like, all right. If you had seen her and heard her and didn't realise what was going on, you'd think that we were together having a great time, not having an Indian head massage. And so when I left that office, she continued to see me as a client. And every time she came to see me as an Indian head massage, she would go into this real relaxed, chill out zone where she could be herself, she could feel safe, she could express her worries or her sorrows, and she could just then go, yeah, I'm good now, I've had my fix, I can go and face the world. And so that's part of my career change, is supporting others and actually sort of having that balance between an office job and my passion, and it works okay. It doesn't have to be 100% all the one way for you. And that's my story.
Richard Trimber is going to read some poetry. Time and the Road. Yes? Eventually.
I haven't got anything that will last for 4 minutes, so I'll have to subject you to a few shorter ones that last for less than 4 minutes. First one is called But Not Forgotten. The magpie tree towering beside the old dirt road where the magpie used to swoop us. Little kids walking to school along the long straight road across the sandy creek in days long gone. The sandy creek where the kingfisher had her nest. The pomegranate tree beside the school, gone now but not forgotten. The little boys' collections of birds' eggs, well recalled. Blue ones, white ones, speckled, every size, nestling in their bed of cotton wool. Missing only one, an eagle's egg. We tried, but an eagle is more than a match for 2 little boys. All gone, but not forgotten. And then the pony at full gallop down the street, a little boy riding bareback with a pussy willow whip. And the football match between 2 tiny towns, separated only by the lazy river as it wandered through the verdant valley among the colours of the autumn trees. All gone except the river, all long gone. How sweet it was, the innocence of carefree childhood, long gone but not forgotten. The next one is called The New Tomorrow. You are the gentle rain and the moonlight that shimmers on still waters. You are the soft breeze that lingers at the end of summer days. You are the pink cloud's hues amid departing rays of sunset and twilight on the far horizon as it slowly fades to grey. You are the endless stars, the diamond night before the first soft streaks of dawn. You are the dawn and all its promises, the new tomorrow with its hopes of future joy. And now we get to Time and the Road. Time and the Road. Too short the time, too long the road we should have travelled long ago. But that was in another time, before our paths crossed, yours and mine. both going on our separate ways, pursuing dreams of other days. Our journeys took us far away, but memories never left that day. And now, our lives thrown far apart, we, longing, share each other's heart. But anchored each by life's decrees, we cling to hopes as swift time flees. And still we know each passing day sees love's fulfilment fade away. Our hearts all burdened with life's load. Too short the time, too long the road.
I'll show you something of mine. This is the only copy so far, because this is the proof copy of my memoir, which will be launching here. There should be a few invitations on your seats. So on Wednesday the 8th of August here, the launch will be, so you are all invited. And I'm going to read you a little excerpt from it. So, this is a memoir about my childhood. I grew up on a commune, so I had a very unconventional childhood. And this is a little taste of what it was like living there. The fire crackled and a log fell into the ash, the glowing embers throwing out tendrils of bright red and orange. Moths dived into the flames of the candles, which made the light flicker. Between the fire and the candles, light danced all around us. Outside, the river talked to me, as did the creek, throwing up croaking frogs and the thump of a kangaroo as it bounded up the hill. A high-pitched scream sliced the night. We sat stiff at the table, eyes straining in the soft light. My heart was like that thumping kangaroo. The night swarmed in. In my mind, I saw a dead woman, mouth ajar, the life draining from her. It's just a she-owl catching a rabbit, said Mama, without looking up from her writing. I tried to rearrange the image in my head. All I could manage was a frightened little fiver in the claws of a ravenous owl as he was swallowed up by the darkness. Going to sleep was hard when you couldn't turn off these pictures. So, I'm hoping you can all come to my launch. I'll have a limited edition of hardcover books, but there will also be soft cover. I was going to give this away tonight, but I actually have to give it away to the person launching so she can read it. But tonight we'll actually be giving away a set of Untitles, because we are actually going to be bringing out another edition of Untitled. So for anyone who doesn't know what Untitled is, it's a collection of short stories. So we will be opening that for submissions, and people actually get paid for their stories for these. So it's fiction, it's not non-fiction, it's fictional stories, and the dog and the cat are having a dance up here. So that will be our door prize tonight. Okay, Coral. Coral is going to show us her book, The Edge of the World. Now Coral had this out as an ebook, but she's now worked really hard to produce the book herself through Ingram Spark, and it looks fantastic. I'm assuming you've got some to sell with you tonight?
Yes.
Yes? You can come and tell us about it.
Yes, so it's in French. This is describes my 4 road trips around Tassie by myself, and all that I put myself through, as I tend to do. But I'm a very dopey traveller, so all sorts of stuff happens. And this was originally an ebook. It's been on Amazon as an ebook for a couple of years, and Busybird were a big help at that time because I didn't have a clue. So the lovely cover was done by Kev, and from a photo I took at Arthur River, which is northwest Tassie on the coast, and it's a very wild place. And so if you go from Arthur River and head out into the ocean and keep going, you don't hit land until South America. And so hence the subtitle Next Stop Cape Horn. And what I was going to tell you, I was going to say something else, but I've forgotten. I haven't done this before. Oh yeah, Busybird inserted the maps for me and the copyright page and all that. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I thought I'd just read the first bit of the prologue. It's 4 o'clock and I'm thinking I should ring the tourist park at Strawn to say I'm running late. There's no mobile coverage, but it's been allowed for. A public phone stands at the side of the road just outside the town of Tulla. Be here by 6, the woman says. We leave then. I've looked at the map and there's not too far to go. No worries, I'll make it easily. I drive another hour and it's nearly dark. People on the whole are not practical when giving advice on travelling. No one told me Tasmania was dark at 5 o'clock in winter. I needed to know that. I'm not sure how much longer my concentration will hold out. It's been a huge day. I left the Spirit of Tasmania, the ferry that brought me in my little hatchback across Bass Strait from Melbourne to Devonport around 7 a.m. Everyone else on the ship disappeared within minutes, while I drove in circles looking for somewhere for breakfast. I know it's Sunday, and I know it was early, but surely some enterprising soul with a cafe this close to the ferry terminal could open for people like me on their first jaunt to Tassie. Just before giving up, I saw a cafe that had been there all along, and I realised how tired I was. I'd had a cabin to myself, but kept waking up, not wanting to miss anything of my first trip on a ship into an ocean. Eggs and bacon in front of an open fire energised me, and I set out on my adventure. My travel agent daughter suggested I pass through Sheffield, a country town with the history of the area painted in murals on the walls of the buildings. She also strongly recommended a walk around Dove Lake, which lies at the feet of the great Dolomite crags of Cradle Mountain. I don't think she meant me to do it all on the first day. I've done road trips before, so I'm not a complete novice when it comes to distances, but I don't seem to be getting anywhere. I left Cradle hours ago. Maybe I took a wrong turn. There's nothing here but mountains and forests. Mile after mile of corners to navigate in the dark. Now and then an SUV roars past and I watch its taillights disappear into the gloom. They obviously know where they're going. I haven't got a clue. I could be here forever, alone, driving into a black eternity. Enough of the melodrama. Must pull myself together, must concentrate. What if I don't make it in time? What if they close up and leave me stranded? It's 20 to 6 and I see a couple of lights off in the distance. I'll leave it there. So it's on all the main online bookstores, booksellers. You have to type that, for some reason, it's not coming up on their lists, but it is, they have got it.
Have you got some with you tonight?
Yes, and I've got some
tonight.
How much are you selling it for? $20.
$20? Okay, cool. Thank you. It looks really good. Well done. Leo Lazarus is a newbie tonight. Leo is going to read some poems. One is called Waning Moon. Welcome.
Hi everyone. My name's Leo. I live up the road just off Mount Pleasant Road in Research. And I'll see how I go for time. Hopefully I get through 2 of these. This one's called Waning Moon. It's a long time for the moon, the fading of her fullness. Less to do with her size or brightness, all to do with our eyes closed to seeing her. Sleeping while she shines in the wee hours, waning yet not gone. Though a week might pass where we've missed something but known not what, until a clear morning sight of a crescent, pale and slight against a teacup blue sky, wakens us from our young day's dream. The soft something we've missed, which stayed up later than early for us if only we raised our eyes to her. In the times when she's not the fire of night, those when she doesn't boldly wrench the gaze for wonder at the swirls and mysterious darknesses under her pearly and glass eyes. If only we didn't think her beauty gone the moment her fullness goes, not see her as a beauty passed her prime month upon pattern-breaking month, cherished her descent to her rest, sang to her through the dark nights, knew of her hidden places, even when we could not join her there, raised our eyes to blue skies in morning search for her lingering touch, cool and soothing in a sun-washed vault, empty of starfire and secrets, waited her growing powers with patience born by love of the whole, as she wanes, then slowly waxes. Thank you. And this one is called The Shadow Splits. Evening sun to narrow eyes, heat shells, shadow hairs, kiss necks, create two of everything. Polarize the east from the west, make one half too visible, the other disappear. In a way which questions the third dimension, for if half the world's face can close like a weary eye, how can the certainty that the far side, the full circle joining of a tree's trunk, be any more than guessed at? This I ponder, this the fairy wrens ignore, sure-footed in the trunk's circling spiral, deft in the fan-tailed entrance, then exit from the black eastern reach. This the hills belie, improbably solid, impenetrable for all their sun-soaked deceptions, and the cherry ballard smirks, for its trunk is rippled black from east dawn to west dusk, while my compass needle spins. They take their cue from firm ground, steady themselves, working toes into clay, and carefully unfurl, bodies moving up and away. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leo. If anyone feels something brush up against them, there is a cat in the room. I was just watching the cat almost curl around Leo's legs, and I don't know if he realises he's there. His name is Eric, and he's actually from the bike shop next door. They live there, and he and Oscar love each other to death. So he's, he's wandering around, so don't get a fright. Marcello is going to tell us some more stories from the boy from Ginostra.
The boy from Ginostra is still walking. The edge of the world, with all due respect, is not Tasmania, but it's Ginostra. It is the edge of the world. And when I moved there, age 10, it was not a career change, but it was a life change. So I reached Ginostra the first time when I was 10 to meet my brother. Was a young priest there with my mother and my sister, who shortly after came to Australia. And it was about 7 o'clock, early June, so it was still daylight. But all I could see with the rowboat as we were going towards the rocks, I thought we were going to crash. Instead there was a little opening, the smallest port in the world even today, according to Guinness Book of Records, and we landed on this little, let's call it pier. We were the only passengers, but there were a few people waiting for us because the priest family was going there, and at the time the priest had big influence even on us, on a big town like Ginostra with 80 odd people living there. Now there's 37. And by the way, 2 weeks ago there was the second birth in 60 years. A young fella and his wife had twins. The one before that was in 57, a young girl that I met, and was the only christening that my brother, the priest, had in 10 years. So this is, and it's still, even not today, they've built a better pier so that the hydrofoil can go there, but nature still controls what happens to Ginostra more than the island itself is 10 kilometers square, but Ginostra is the smallest village, but the way it's situated, it's totally cut off the rest of the world. You go there, you're on your own. In my time was even worse. Coming from a bigger island, and they were a bit more comfortable, all of a sudden here I am. So we get there, and I was waiting for either a donkey or a cart to bring the few suitcases we had, and then there was a few other things. But of course, at the time there was not even a donkey. And talking about birth, 2 weeks ago, the donkey gave birth to little baby donkey. So the equal numbers have incremented by 4 to 4.5. At the time, so we found some people were generous and said, we'll bring this, a couple of the boys. Altogether would have been 4 or 5 boys in the early teens, 1 or 2 in the late teens, a couple of young girls, and then all the others were older people that had come to greet us. So we walk just like this because there is, you couldn't see anything from where we landed. All we could see was rocks going up and up. So it takes about half an hour to walk all those ramps that are still there. And it was then a little landing, they said, was the monument to the people that died during the war. But all it was just a bit of cement on the floor. Not smaller than this area there, with a couple of elevated walls. And I could see the church right in front of us, another bit. So through a rather dangerous footpath, we managed to go to the church. Then we went around the corner, and there was the door of the kitchen that greeted us. Next time I'll tell you what happened that night. But all I can say that the volcano was at its best that night. And for the first time in my life, I was scared. And I spent 3 years under the bombs, American bombs, in Sicily when the Americans landed. There's nothing scarier than a volcano bloating fire.
That's all right. Got a few one front seat.
It's my luck.
Helen is going to read some poetry. A poem called Floods, is that right?
Yeah, and another one called Winter.
That's fine, thank you.
This is an acrostic poem called Winter. Wintry cold mornings and glow of briquettes, inner child warms to marionettes. Nana always enjoyed the flower pot men, 2 fun characters, Bill and Ben. Each morning round 9 she'd turn to Channel 2, ritual for company like a teapot brew. Another acrostic poem called Floods. Yes, I like my acrostic poems. Flooding waters quickly churn, loam to mud at every turn, overwhelming height of creek, ogres run with nature's freak. Drifting roads, cars afloat, suburban locals, saved by boat.
Thanks, Helen. I don't know what an acrostic poem is. What is it?
Rhyming.
So it's called Floods, so each line
Starts with the letters. Oh, cool. I learned something. Everyone get that? So each line starts with the first letter, or each letter of the head, the title. Cool. Michelle Burke. I can't tell what you're reading.
I know.
I'll let you explain that.
You don't like, I like getting up and everything.
As you can see, Paul is missing.
Paul is missing, I know. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. How's everyone going? Good? This morning, as you know, I come up with a theme for the night, and tonight is about if you had your time over. If you had the opportunity to rewind the clock, what would you do? Would you change anything? So that's something for you to go home with and just think about. and I would have gone into what I would do, but I've got something else here. So for those who know me, I travel around the world with a 5'9" cardboard cutout of my late husband. His name's Paul, and we call him Cardboard Paul. So from my 9-week tour around the world last year, I'm writing the story. And it's called Travelling with Cardboard Paul, Keeping Promises whilst moving forward, travelling around the world. And I've got plenty of photos of Paul and me. So if you're interested in following his story, he's on Conversations with Paul on Facebook. He's got his own website. He's got his own website. So here it is. Here's just the introduction. Whilst travelling on the #trip of a lifetime, I was fortunate to keep a promise I'd made. In early 2016, after my husband Paul was diagnosed terminal with months to live, we started planning. The realisation that the love of my life had gone is devastating, especially at a relatively young age, and we had plans of growing old together and travelling the world. When Paul was seriously ill towards the end of his life, he asked me what I would do when he was gone. I told Paul that I would travel all the places that we had planned on visiting. I explained that I would get a life-size cardboard cutout of him, pack him in my suitcase and take him out, and take photos of both of us at all the tourist destinations. He didn't believe me, but I promised him I would, and a promise is a promise. I was fortunate to keep that promise to Paul when in May 2017 I booked a 9-week tour around the USA and Europe for August to October 2017. I originally booked tickets to see Paul McCartney in concert in New York, and it snowballed from there. A few months prior to me leaving on my trip, I thought I'd have to organise a cardboard cutout of Paul to take him along with me. I found a supplier that made cardboard cutouts and ordered one. Within 48 hours of placing the order, cardboard cutout Paul had arrived. I was only able to find one suitable photo that he was standing by himself, and that was our wedding day. Cardboard Paul is 5'9" and some young-looking 36-year-old spunk. When I put Cardboard Paul, well, the people who've seen him, he's gorgeous, isn't he? And he's all dressed up in his suit. When I put Cardboard Paul Paul up, Ollie, our dog, started barking at him. I took some photos and put them on Facebook. I'd also been interviewed for the AM Healing My Soul TV about grieving and reinventing my life after Paul's death. We also had a special update on the arrival of Cardboard Paul. When preparing for my trip, I had to find a bag big enough to put Paul in, and was also concerned about fitting him in my suitcase. After searching through my wardrobe, I found a very large calico bag that I stored wool in, which Paul fitted perfectly. I was also able to fit Paul into my suitcase effortlessly with no issues. When people talk about grieving, they just assume or think they know what is going on in your life. And it's not what they say, but how they judge you or label you. I grieved with Paul when he was alive. We grieved for all the moments lost, all the travel we would do together, all the laughter and conversations and togetherness we would not share. I have had to reinvent my life without Paul. Just because I travelled around the world with a cardboard cutout of Paul doesn't mean I am grieving for Paul and can't let him go. I have accepted that Paul is no longer here in my life and in the physical. I know that he is with me in spirit, and I still have conversations with him and feel him around me occasionally. There you go. Yes, I am. I'm aiming for the end of July.
Awesome.
So I'm coming to talk to you through.
Ilse, is that Ilse? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Ilse.
Ilse.
Yes.
Sorry. We did actually have a conversation and you told me that, but it's gone in one side and out the other. Ilse is going to read some poetry. After reading, is that what it's called?
After reading.
Yes, welcome.
Unexpected evening.
That's okay. We've got a few newbies tonight. It's fantastic. Welcome.
We'll see. We'll see. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I'm exploring poetry, so after reading. The third spider scurried across my sheet to greet and complete an esoteric saying, a rhyme of superstition. Everything comes in threes, goodness me. At the end of this day, reminiscences, laughter, sunshine walks, to clear a dense book fog, a homage to Ted Hughes. I have my friend and his to thank for that. Bates, who never thought to be their scribe, a tome no less, a testament to their very public lives, whom everyone scrutinised in the searing open sky of public opinion. They were human after all, like us. His secret laid bare, which of course he could not share until buried in some prince's corner, a memory monument. And their love torn into human tapestry, discoloured by your particular point of view. He wrote, "I didn't pick up the phone when she most needed me to." He was riven with guilt that produced the cancer door of all cells' downfall, running to reproduce like the last dying man's gasp into his private hell to her. Closing this boy's journey to satisfy curiosity in defence of my opinion, yet the feminists are still screaming for blood, his, not hers. Their myth of egos, Heathcliff and his lover, walk into that Moor's history, shadowing them a plait of silver and her daemon lover, husband and supporter. I chase that fog away, but the echoes still resound upon my empty walls, fill my space with mystic alchemy, these lions and their silver tongues. Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath. This belongs to a group of poems, and it's about the journey of drug addiction. This is only one of them. The Reaper's Invitation. You're only 22, still in your prime. I've come for you. Yes, your soul is mine. I condemn you now to wander through my land, meet lost dead souls who passed before you came. They wander down your streets in shadows you can't see. Suck out the life you seek, clinging to unconscious memories. How many more, you ask? Well, I have the upper hand, for it's with your permission I wander through your land. Every time you say, escape, I'll find a fantasy. I don't want to live. Let me run away, be free. You've let me in, you see, but your eyes are blind. Where once a crack was, now the door stands open wide. You shriek out loud, protect me from intrusion. But all that came was a blighted hand, a guide disguised in your illusions. There is no help, and like a fool you listened. Believed the lies, so by addiction into my world you are now christened. The problem is, well, you don't want to know, and I don't have to watch your sorry plight and sorry show. Your anger stems from incessant fears. You do not stand in truth and bear your soul in here. Now death awaits, so come this way, my dear.
Thank you for that. Okay. Gay Miller is going to read some poetry and do some stand-up. You're welcome.
This could make or break me. This might be a very foolish decision here. This is dying on me. Look at what's happening. Thank you. Now Robin's got my prop, so don't forget to bring my prop over, darling. I was going to talk about beauty and then do something with a prop on beauty, because I always think it's fairly unfair as to how beauty is dealt out with people, but you look on television and people are always, the women are always absolutely beautiful and very ethereal. And you see photos of women who are running across sand and their hair is blowing out beautifully behind them, and they're slim and they're just so graceful and lovely. And my second step will be smack bang flat in the sand if I do that sort of thing. And I can remember another one where you see them standing, holding dead daintily onto a flower in the garden, you know, just standing there. I've done this twice. I was talking to the plumber and I was very impressed with him. And I daintily put my hand out and touched the tree and grabbed hold of a very fat caterpillar. So you can see it never works quite as well for me as it does for other people. So I thought, I was watching Joanna Lumley on the show the other night. She's absolutely staggeringly beautiful. And I saw her in something else seems like years ago, where she was wearing this beautiful hood, and it just sat beautifully on her shoulders and on her face, and she looked magnificent. I thought, that's all I need is the hood. Robin, would you bring me, please? So I got
This
my
happens
hood.
every night. She's usually got nothing underneath.
That's even better.
They're the good nights.
Wait a minute, Robin. Just a moment, please. We're jammed, so we've done something. I'm going to give you three examples. I'm going to do no, just a moment. No, I'll do myself. You're just trying to steal the limelight here. Now I'm going to do three examples of beauty in this. Now, the first one is alluring and sexy, right? I'm going to turn around, then I'm going to turn around and be alluring and sexy. Just do it up first. Wait a moment. If I can get this down.
I usually do this up for you.
Yeah. Just a moment. This is alluring and sexy, remember?
Okay.
No, it's not alluring and sexy. It's alluring and what was the other word I had? Alluring and and mysterious. That's right. Mysterious, right? Don't peek.
She's not going to be able to do that.
Works for me, eh?
The next one is sexy. Stop with the bell. What was the last one, Robin? Oh, playful. Thank you very much. It's called drifting. The rope that tied the boat to the jetty slithered snake-like across the sun-bleached boards into the water and was gone. Disappeared in the muddy coloured stream. Now free, the boat took the hand of the current and together they rounded the bend and vanished. My friend, are we too drifting, soon to disappear? Has age called and offered his hand for a swift and easy retreat? Don't be tempted, my friend. There's still so much to do, to see, to hear, touch, smell, taste and enjoy. You still have a store of unspent laughter, of wonder to experience and love to give. Thank you.
Love. When last you wrote, you ended it. Your text message was characteristically succinct and error-free, with 2 smiley face emojis. Tight and tidy, there were no ellipses to modify the finality, no white space for discussion. Not that we talked much anyway. You knew and I knew it wasn't about communication. To talk our way to connection would have been conventional, but in our case, unnecessary. Chemistry, as most votes kerosene to connection. But your praying mantis frame and my craping skin made attraction the poor cousin to our connection. No, it was not backyard lab chemistry or home renovation rewiring the electrical. Touch had its territory and knew which way to travel, but it wasn't this, wasn't quite so terrestrial. And I'm still trying to find the words to explain how I can't explain why when we sat like two kittens on the carpet with our backs against the couch watching Disney movies with the seams of our jeans scratching, how holding hands under the rug, our breathing slowed and synced, and how your hands with pads like pillows, generous in their comfort, and my skin that you said was so soft, had the power to empty and still the voices in your mind and thaw my perpetually cold feet. Do you know what you texted away? You told me you had waited 6 years for this, but wrote it off in 6 minutes. I waited too, even when I didn't know what would happen, because from the first second, I sensed the potential of it. And I hoped, but it was more than hope, because even then I could feel the thread of connection thickening, felt you tug at it, and I tugged back, then the pulling slackened. I practiced the patience you asked of me because I knew that to pull you to me too hard, too fast would snap the thread. It was too fragile a thing, but like the silk of a spider's web, strong enough to support things beyond its weight. So I waited, because I knew the potential of this was the thing you and I wanted and feared most. Total intimacy. But fear got the better of you, didn't it, hun? I heard it imbued in the risk-adverse portion of your logic. Your strawberry blonde pet cat is little comfort against the black dog of your anxiety. What animal is courage? A duck? Duck courage? Is not being unafraid, but deciding to do what you choose while scared to death. Can you risk the flight back to our sanctuary where you'd be protected by respectful boundaries, not fenced in by the cautionary logic or the voice-muffling padding of the spare doona keeping the hall light from seeping in through the bedroom door? Okay then, stay in. But text out. What do I say? Tell me this. Dating is a nice idea. Full stop.
This is a poem, just a short poem about my mother and how she died. Oh well, not just how she died. She died of cancer, liver cancer, and she grew up on a, I'll just get my breath, just a moment. It's the first time I've done this. Okay. She grew up on a cattle station in North Queensland, and she was brought up till she was 10 by her mother, and then went to boarding school. And then she married a very difficult man. That's all I want to say. Okay. Yellow. Sallow asylum tiled room, flat on table, stirruped. Searing insults from attending sister. Come on, get on with it, you're hanging on to it. Arrival after 36 hours to fraught cord and scream. And a panting sun radiating love, black eyes and hair tied up, kissing me in buttercup midriff. Bedridden with migraine, mustard, vomit. Little hands combed languid locks. Narcissistic teen in tow. Shopping for hours, selflessly shaping the right chic. Pianist with voice self-grown like a pearl. Beautiful ballet mum dressed in citron, badgered by men, husband and chicks who flew to that rough, tough stuff of life. Leaving a sulphurous spleen to spill over the marriage mountain. Wearing the livery and liver of a North Queensland cattleman's daughter, tending chickens and potty calves on dingo-poisoned hills. Led again to bed, jaundiced and folded like a hatchling. pulsing in the night, fleshless wings flaying, drawing breath through a toothless skull. My mother embraced yellow once again.
Steve Dagata. He's going to do Crazy Mother.
I don't mean that in a badass sense. I guess if you take it literally, it's sort of true. I mean, if you've been with a woman who's had children. But what I really actually want to be when I refer to myself as a crazy mother is that I'm mentally deranged. And since my wife abandoned me and my 3 children, well, she got breast cancer and died, but it's still very irresponsible of her all the same. I've had to be both a father and a mother.
I agree. I know how you're feeling.
Now, I've always been pretty adept at the dad thing. You come home from work, you ask what's for dinner, settle down from the telly, growl at anyone who touches the remote. But in all seriousness, I was and am still, from necessity, a hands-on dad. I did my share of the feeding, the bathing and the nappy changes, including dealing with the chronic nappy failures, where the poo shoots up the baby's back. What was meant to be a quick nappy change in the middle of the night becomes a 1-hour saga of bathing and changing clothes and bedding. But there are also some things that a dad knows about caring for children that mums do not. For example, most mums don't know that children come with self-cleansing mechanisms. Young children, especially teething toddlers, produce copious amounts of drool, which, with the aid of a humble handkerchief, which women never seem to carry, can be readily employed to clean a dirty face. So, although I've had all the requisite skills and experience to raise children, I was still not entirely prepared for the demands of being both a father and a mother full time. For starters, the children are very egalitarian nowadays. Where they used to see mum and dad, now they only see parent. So when my wife left, I, as a remaining parent, was automatically expected to assume all of her parental responsibilities, as well as my own. The thought of taking on additional chores themselves didn't appear across their minds. This was partially because it was a parent's job to do everything, but I think it's also because it reinforced the reality that a major part of their lives had disappeared. That said, I'm by no means a domestic god. I do have better than average cooking skills, and you should check out my YouTube cooking show, Cooking with Stevie D. But my cleaning skills are well below par as a mother was. The realisation that I needed to do more than just provide the practical support, and that they really valued the nurture and comfort I provided them as well. So while there is really no substitute for a mother's love, it can still be provided by a dad when the need arises.
There's just a couple of things to remind you about. So one is my book launch next month. Please let us know if you're coming, because we are catering and we're having Jimmy Fong sing some folk songs. We're going to be transported to the 70s. The Busybird Writing Retreat is next month at Carmicking Lake. That's our very special retreat. If you're interested in coming to that, the early bird price ends this Friday. That's the 20th, isn't it? And we have up on the table up the back there, we have our list of workshops for the rest of the year, if anyone is interested. And we also have up on the table there a mailing list. So if you're not on our mailing list, we send out a monthly newsletter that tells you all about what's happening, and there's lots of writing and publishing resources within that newsletter as well. Does anyone else have any announcements, anything happening they want to tell people about? Have I forgotten anything?
I mentioned book camp.
Book camp, yes. In October, I can't remember the date, it's on here, 20th and 21st of October here. It's a full weekend of writing and publishing. It is awesome value because if you get in the early bird special, it's $3.95 for the whole weekend. So we will be learning about how to plan, write, publish and market your book. So it's a really amazing value. Les and I will be running that. Anything else, Kev? The door prize. So take out your little, did everyone get a ticket when they came in? So don't forget that Coral has her book. This is a copy if you want to have a look. $20. My book's not for sale yet, although you can purchase, if you can't come to the launch and you do want a copy, you can purchase a copy via our website. They won't be available though until a week or so from now. Okay, so this is all 7 of our Untitled issues that we've, when did we start, Les? 208. So there's over $100 worth of books here, all short stories. If you don't want them, you can give them to someone. It's fine. Okay, it is Orange A13. Well done, Leo.
Not inviting you back again.
Yeah, we won't. We don't want him back again.
I thought I was having an apprenticeship.
Okay, so we'll see you again next month for Open Mic Night. Don't forget to look up our TV show called The Nest. Give us some feedback if you like. We wanted it to be Daggy. I was thinking, the original Batman show. It's nothing like that, but it's Daggy like that. That's the idea, okay? Because we don't know how to do sleep. So hang around. I don't know if Paulette and Val have drunk all the red wine, but if there's any red wine, there's might be other wine. We can get stuck in, I think there's a bottle of scotch there, so we can but you can stay for a cup of tea or coffee, finish off the cake, just hang around if you like, or piss off if you want to.